On a bright, serene morning, I found myself standing amid scattered memories and a tangible sense of anticipation. In the quiet solitude of my home, each ray of sunlight gently kissed old photographs and well-worn furniture. The physical disarray in the living room and neglected corners mirrored a deeper chaos that resided in my habits, relationships, and daily routines. I realized that this journey was not merely about organizing objects, but about embracing the art of intentional letting go. Every item on the shelves carried a story of who I once was, even though many had outlived their purpose. Standing amidst clutter, I reflected on how possessions, like our habits and connections, quietly accumulate until they overwhelm our spirit. Every stray book, outdated gadget, and forgotten trinket became a metaphor for moments in life no longer cherished. The calm of the morning was infused with a desire for renewal, inviting me to confront both seen and unseen distractions. I marveled at the transformation a mindful act of decluttering could inspire in both space and spirit. I resolved to embark on a personal challenge, to sift through the maze of physical belongings and examine ingrained patterns of behavior and relationships. In doing so, I aimed to uncover those parts of my life that had grown stagnant under the weight of bygone days. I welcomed the day with openness and determination, ready to peel away layers of accumulated clutter. I envisioned each discarded object and outdated habit as an opportunity to create space for growth, balance, and newfound joy. In that peaceful morning light, the clutter transformed from an inconvenience to a powerful symbol of possibility, marking the beginning of a journey celebrating inner transformation. As I stood there absorbing the morning's gentle energy, I felt a subtle shift within my heart. The day offered not only a chance to clear physical spaces, but also a mirror to the internal landscapes that had long been forgotten. In that reflective moment, I recognized that every small decision to remove unnecessary clutter was a step toward a more harmonious life. This gentle act of self-care promised a future where every decision was made with purpose, freeing not just the home, but also the mind. I stepped confidently into the day, determined to embrace change and reclaim a lighter life. I remembered a time when every room in my house echoed chaos, the piles of items reflecting not only physical disorder, but emotional clutter as well. In my early days, the simple act of accumulating presents and cherished mementos gradually evolved into a habit of holding onto objects that no longer served a meaningful purpose. I recalled afternoons spent sifting through boxes in search of treasures, yet often finding remnants of an earlier self that I had outgrown. Each worn-out book, misplaced photograph, and dusty keepsake symbolized not only forgotten memories, but also the weight of routines that stifled growth. In one memory, I saw a cluttered kitchen where sticky notes and random utensils were strewn about, reminders of unfulfilled intentions and tasks left undone. I noticed that this physical clutter paralleled the accumulation of habits that had subtly woven themselves into my everyday life. Every repeated action, every monotonous ritual, added another layer to an unseen backlog that quietly dictated my days. As the piles of physical items grew, so too did my collection of unproductive habits, each one a silent contributor to a cluttered mind. I vividly remembered days when the clutter felt overwhelming, mirroring the sluggish cycle of habits that offered little in return. This period of my life was marked by a quiet acceptance of disorder, both around me and within my inner world. In the midst of everyday routines, I rarely paused to question why I clung to every insignificant object and insignificant habit. The clutter in my environment served as a constant, albeit unnoticed, companion to the patterns that restricted my creativity and peace. I began to see that both the physical mess and the inner disarray were interlinked, each reflecting the neglected parts of my life. In retrospect, I understood that the habit of hoarding, whether it was items or recurrent behaviors, had gradually constructed an invisible cage around my well-being. This realization stirred a mix of regret and hope, as I recalled the moments when the chaos first began to mirror my inner state of being. I recognized that confronting this clutter meant more than tidying up a space. It required addressing a lifetime of unnoticed habits accumulated in silence. Reflecting on these memories, I began to see that the first step to reclaiming control over my life was to confront the clutter head-on. Slowly, I started the process of dismantling the layers of accumulation, resolving to create a new chapter defined by clarity and purpose. In that moment, surrounded by remnants of forgotten days and the echoes of past routines, I accepted that this clutter was a mirror reflecting both my history and the possibility of renewal. I embraced the challenge. As I moved beyond the visible mess, I turned my attention to the less tangible, yet equally pervasive, forms of clutter in my life. I began to examine the habits that had crept into my routines, unchallenged and unexamined, gradually dictating the course of my days. In quiet moments, I reflected on the repetitive actions that seemed as automatic as breathing, yet offered little in return. These habits, firmly entrenched over the years, were like invisible threads binding me to a past that no longer resonated with my aspirations. I recognized that every day carried echoes of routines that felt comfortable, yet ultimately confined me in a cycle of monotony. I recalled instances when relationships that once nourished my spirit slowly transformed into sources of undue stress and emotional clutter. People who had been companions on my journey eventually became reminders of old narratives and patterns I wished to leave behind. In a reflective afternoon, I sat quietly, letting my thoughts wander through memories of both joy and sorrow, realizing that some relationships had become stagnant. The day unfolded with layers of introspection as I compared the habitual motions of life to the sturdy yet ultimately unnecessary piles of countable possessions. I began to see symbolic connections between a cluttered room and a cluttered mind, both signaling an unintentional acceptance of what no longer served me. I recalled a morning walk when the chill in the air seemed to whisper secrets about the importance of discarding outdated beliefs. Observing these internal patterns, I felt a profound calling to revisit every habit, every relationship, and every recurring routine with a critical eye. I navigated through memories where laughter was shared and moments of intimacy celebrated. Yet I also recalled times of quiet disconnection and unspoken tension. It became evident that refreshing my inner world required more than dusting off shelves. It demanded a deliberate re-examination of every loop behavior and stagnant connection. I allowed myself to feel the weight of my past attachments, while quietly acknowledging that letting go was essential for personal evolution. With each reflection, the intangible clutter, comprising repetitive actions and draining relationships, stood revealed as obstacles to a harmonious rhythm of life. I began documenting my thoughts, likening the collection of old habits and unresolved bonds to a dusty attic filled with relics that needed rediscovery or release. Each memory and habit was gently scrutinized, not with harsh judgment, but with a compassionate desire to move forward. Through this internal unpacking, I discovered that the process of decluttering was as much about healing emotional wounds as it was about rebalancing daily routines. I embraced the challenge of transformation with a quiet resolve, understanding that clearing non-tangible clutter was the key to unlocking a more authentic and vibrant self. I spent long evenings journaling about the subtle yet powerful impact of everyday habits and overlooked relationships on my personal growth. With pen in hand, I chronicled moments when a kind gesture or a thoughtful word seemed to cut through the dense fog of routine, offering glimpses of renewal. I observed that by consciously altering small, habitual actions, choosing a walk over television or reading a book instead of mindlessly scrolling, I began to see shifts in my overall mood and outlook. Each conscious decision to break an old pattern granted me the clarity to appreciate the value of new beginnings and healthier connections. I started to understand that non-tangible clutter was not merely an inconvenience, but a complex web of experiences that sometimes needed careful untangling. With every habit reassessed and every relationship reevaluated, I felt a profound liberation as heavy burdens lifted. I embarked on the decluttering journey with a quiet determination, stepping into a process that was as much about inner healing as it was about organizing physical spaces. I began by clearing a single room, allowing myself to carefully sort through piles of possessions, while also questioning the habits that had long gone unchallenged. As I worked, every discarded item represented a small victory over the inertia of habit and the weight of the past. Sweeping dust from old shelves, I also swept away memories that no longer served me, making space for dreams waiting to emerge. With each careful decision to let go, the room transformed gradually from a chaotic repository of relics into a sanctuary of renewed hope. I found that the physical act of clearing space was intertwined with moments of emotional release. Every movement, from lifting a dusty box to folding away old garments, became a symbolic gesture of reclaiming my life. In the quiet hum of daily activity, I also confronted the internal dialogue that had long justified procrastination and inaction. The transformation unfolded slowly, with moments of breakthrough coming as unexpected insights that connected my physical surroundings to my innermost feelings. I documented these shifts with the care of an artist, recording not only the changes in my space, but also the quiet evolution of my heart. Even when the task felt daunting, I persisted, driven by the vision of a life reimagined and free from the burdens of accumulation. I revisited my daily routines, stripping away the automatic actions that no longer enriched my existence, and replaced them with mindful practices that nurtured creativity and calm. Each new routine became a small celebration of renewal, a deliberate choice to honor both the past and the promise of tomorrow. I moved methodically from one room to another, each step in the process reinforcing my commitment to a life defined by clarity and mindfulness. With every box cleared and every habit questioned, I felt a gentle yet unmistakable shift in the rhythm of my existence. I embraced each small success, understanding that the journey of letting go was not linear, but filled with moments of both setback and triumph. In the mirror of my progress, I saw a reflection of a renewed self, ready to make space for experiences that truly mattered. I celebrated the end of one chapter and the hopeful beginning of another, where each cleared surface symbolized a fresh start. With a sense of renewal infusing every action, I continued my journey, mindful that the process of letting go was an evolving art. In that continuous flow of clearing and renewal, I discovered that each act of letting go opened new avenues for joy and meaningful connection. Every step in the process reinforced my belief that renewal was born from the courage to let go and the wisdom to start anew. At last, I stepped back to admire the fruit of my labor, the final space a vibrant testament to my transformation. During the deep cleansing of space, I encountered the formidable task of overcoming emotional attachments that had silently anchored me to a bygone era. I faced the bittersweet challenge of bidding farewell to items laden with memories, each one a reminder of times filled with both joy and sorrow. As I removed each object, I felt waves of nostalgia mingled with a liberating sense of release. I paused frequently, allowing myself short moments of reflection to acknowledge the emotional ties that had once defined my identity. These introspective pauses were gentle, yet necessary, enabling me to confront the pain of letting go while embracing new potentials. I also reflected on my daily routines, recognizing the patterns that had gradually become rituals hindering productivity and personal growth. Methodically, I replaced old habits with new, mindful actions that resonated with my evolving vision of self-care. Each deliberate change in my routine acted as a small victory against inertia, gradually sculpting a lifestyle in tune with my inner needs. In moments of solitude, I felt a quiet strength emerging, affirming that my journey toward emotional clarity was well underway. The process was neither swift nor painless, yet with each step, I found myself increasingly capable of embracing life without the shadow of unhelpful routines. Bit by bit, the emotional ties to both objects and outdated behaviors loosened, replaced by a liberating sense of possibility. I learned that honoring the past did not require preserving every remnant, but rather cherishing the lessons while moving forward with grace. This balance between remembrance and progress became a guiding principle, encouraging me to forge new habits aligned with my authentic self. Reflecting on my journey, I recognized that the path to emotional freedom was paved with mindful decisions and the courage to let go. I felt an inner transformation as old routines melted away, leaving behind a clearer, more intentional plan for daily living. With each new day, I embraced the fresh rhythm of life, celebrating small victories and the renewed promise of change. This journey of overcoming emotional attachments and revising daily routines instilled in me a deep confidence to steer my own future. I moved forward with a renewed sense of self, knowing that every step taken was a testament to my ability to change. Slowly, the tangled threads of my past unraveled, liberating me from the repetitive cycle of regret and self-doubt. I persisted. At the close of this transformative journey, I reflected on the profound changes wrought by intentional decluttering. I had learned that true decluttering extended beyond physical possessions to include the habits and relationships that shape our daily lives. This journey revealed that letting go is an act of courage and a commitment to oneself. By releasing both clutter and stagnant routines, I opened a path toward inner renewal and vibrant living. Each discarded item and transformed habit became a step toward a future filled with clarity and purpose. This process has shown me that decluttering with intention is not about losing what was, but gaining space for what can be. I embraced each change with gratitude and a gentle optimism, ready to build a life steeped in mindful presence. Now, as I stand amidst a renewed space and spirit, I carry with me the lessons of this journey. Every day is an invitation to continue the work of letting go, to honor growth, and to live with intention. I welcome this new beginning, a quiet promise of a life redeemed by simplicity and purpose. Embracing the future, I set forth with a clear heart and an open mind. I begin.